Periel's birthday.
Happy birthday.
48 years young.
I'm not 48.
All right, sorry. I mean, I was
What are you in your 50s?
53.
I'm 46.
You look good.
And I look good for my age. Okay.
Nikki,
Ready when you are.
are you ready?
Yep.
Hit it.
It's hit.
Oh, we're ready?
Yep.
This is Live from the Table, the official podcast of New York's world-famous Comedy Cellar, coming at you on Sirius XM 99, Raw Dog, and on the Laugh Button Podcast Network. Dan Naturman here with Noam Dworman, owner of the world-famous Comedy Cellar, with locations in New York City and Las Vegas, Nevada. We have Periel Aschenbrand, our producer, but not just a producer, also an on-air personality. She's wearing her mask. She's wearing her K95 as we sit here in the studio. I'm not sure why, but
She wasn't wearing it before we started.
I had it
Is this
down
like virtue
from-
signaling?
No, I had it down.
You've been sitting here for
from-
10 minutes without a mask, and you put on the mask to do the show?
I had it down for a couple of minutes. I always wear it. I mean, for long periods of time until I get my booster, my mask is on. I have an unvaccinated child.
Why aren't you getting your booster? What are you waiting for?
I'm going to now.
You keep saying that.
No, it just became available,
It was available. I got mine in the end of August.
right, but not
Not what?
perfectly,
it wasn't approved.
it wasn't approved. You just got it. But in any case,
It was approved in Israel.
We're
we
not
also
in
have-
fucking
Oh, okay,
Israel.
okay.
we also have with us a new Comedy Cellar comedian, and there's more than a few of these new comedians. I mean, my God, the schedule is just filled with
They're like
names.
rabbits.
Well, I've never heard of most of these people, which is fine, except they're taking my spots. But whatever, I'm old and I'm out. Anyway, Gianmarco Soresi
Hello.
is with us. He's a stand-up comic who's been featured on Comedy Central, Netflix, and PBS. That's odd. We on Peter, Paul, and Mary. His comedy special, Shelf Life, is available on Amazon and was just nominated for 3 New York Emmy. New York Emmy Award? Is that a special Emmy, the New York Emmy?
Yeah, it's a lot less competitive.
Is that something you sponsor?
yeah.
I have
Well, one of the Emmys is for set design.
I have several Albany Emmys at home. And he'll be headlining the Blue Note.
And has a Fordham Law Emmy.
For
Go ahead, go.
plug, oh, I'm sorry, for plugs. That's not supposed to read that out loud. He'll be headlining the Blue Note Hawaii on November 3rd. That sounds lovely. In Honolulu, that's on the, is that in Maui or the Big Island?
In Honolulu.
Honolulu's on what island is that on?
I thought that wasn't.
No, Honolulu.
I think it's
is
Maui.
the city.
No,
No,
'cause I'm
but
going to Maui for the
Honolulu,
wedding.
Honolulu is the island?
No, Honolulu is a city.
Yeah.
I don't know what island it is on.
Oahu?
That sounds right. I'm going to Maui for a friend's wedding, so I know it's not Maui. I hope not, or I'm fucked.
Honolulu is on the island of Oahu.
Ding, ding, ding. What is Oahu?
Where
The Blue
is
Note, the
Oahu?
jazz club?
Yeah.
They're doing comedy now?
Mm-hmm.
Does it pay well enough to cart my
Well,
ass out there, or because you happen to be there?
Because I happen to be there.
I just want to say something. Years ago, at the Village Underground, I had a Mark Whitfield, famous jazz guitar player, play on Monday nights at like a jam session. And the owner of the Blue Note called me up and told me I was not to have. I don't want to say. I don't want to get in trouble. Like he was. I did it anyway. But he's. I mean, we're friends now. But he got mad, and
Why?
now he's having comedy at the
Oh.
Blue Note.
Ah, yes.
You should call him.
Yeah.
At least I didn't do the one here. I went all the way to Hawaii for it.
Listen, my attitude is people should be able to do whatever they want if it's not illegal. I couldn't believe he got mad at me, but whatever it was.
Gianmarco, how long have you been with us here at the Comedy Cellar? Don't worry, Noam. I know you hate these conversations. We'll keep it brief. I like to just do a brief, get to know you.
He told me I
Our
would find
new-
my ass in a garbage can. Go
That's
ahead.
insane.
Yeah, that's all right.
Gianmarco,
Yes.
when did you audition for the Comedy Cellar, and how long have you been with us?
So I had my first spots this past Friday, and I auditioned the Friday before that. Got my avails in 11:30 p.m.
Now, how'd you get your foot in the door to get an audition?
Yamanika,
Dominica. Oh, I know who. Oh, yeah.
and I'm very happy to be here. I'm still, riding that high.
Well,
And
I'm
now,
told.
now I'm with the owner here. I'm going to be very nice on this podcast
Well,
in general.
you don't have
very
to
yes
be.
man.
Well, you don't have to be.
Sure.
Noam likes it. He likes to give as well as he likes to get it as well as he gives it.
Good.
And he actually, if you piss him off, you have a better chance of working here because he likes to prove that he can separate business and personal.
Because I like to prove. What do you think about the Palestinian issue?
Great, fantastic.
What country are you from? Are you American?
Yeah, I'm American.
Sound like
My mom's Jewish.
Sound like you have a slight accent. You know.
That's what people say. I think I just talk oddly.
He's slightly affected.
Yeah, but you know, so are you.
Yeah,
I think we share that. I was at a club and people saw a dance picture on the wall and they thought it was me. So we're both Jewish. I'm Jewish, at least I have that.
And Italian. No.
And Italian, more Jewish though.
More Jewish. He
Much more
is
Jewish.
really insanely talented, and I mean, at stand-up too. No, I'm serious.
Who was a comedian who was half Jewish and half Italian? Says I'm half Jewish and half Italian, so I like mozzarella. Whose joke was
I
that?
don't
Dan?
know. That's amazing.
I like mozzarella. Anyway,
um,
you can steal that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good.
you can't.
It was a funny joke at the time. I probably
Well,
didn't tell it well.
half jokes.
Yeah.
They were all the rage in the '90s, but I think they may be a little bit obsolete at this point.
To you guys, but we still like them because the audience still likes them.
That's a very.
I mean, the
funny
best
joke.
one was when my favorite of the half and half jokes is when Jackie Mason said he knew a guy who was half Jewish, half Puerto Rican. If he can't get it wholesale, he steals it.
That's great.
That's not funny.
But
So go ahead. Continue your interrogation, Daniel.
Please.
well, as I said, we'll keep it. No, Periel says you're hysterical. I'll take a word for it. I didn't.
You've
see,
seen me. You've
No,
seen
I
me
haven't
now and
seen
then.
you. I've seen you off stage, but the other night you were after me. I think you were following me on the
I was.
show.
I was.
And I don't typically stick around, so I didn't see you. But
And it was the first spot, and I'm not a big riffer, but because you had just gone, I said, "Hey, it's me, the last comic 20y years ago."
20
Something
years
like that. And it worked. It got a nice little laugh.
well, with age comes wisdom. but also, Gianmarco's a good-looking guy, so I mean, in a way, it's an insult and a compliment kind of rolled into one.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. Let's face it, I'm not as good-looking as Gianmarco. I don't.
Maybe
think.
20 years ago you were.
I don't know. I don't think so. But in any case, and he's taller than I am, But
He doesn't mean Jeff Goldblum.
well, let's hear a little Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, I did Jeff in a movie, but no one saw the movie, so.
Well, no one sees Jeff. No one saw a lot of Jeff's movies. Either.
Yes. Yeah, that's the only one I can do. That and John Mulaney, which I do for my whole act.
Well, people have accused John Mulaney
Really?
of doing me.
Oh.
Not in a long time, Dan.
I don't think that's.
They used to say when John Mulaney first came on the scene, he's like a taller Naturman or like a,
Wow.
Well, there's a similarity in vocal style, but I don't. I mean, a lot of people talk similar to a lot of people. So
he was like the poor man's Dan Naturman when he first started out. That was how he was described.
I don't think anyone describes.
And then he
He's the very rich man's Dan Naturman.
slow and steady wins the race, as they say.
So Noam, I mean, there's so much going on this week. There's Alec Baldwin. There's the death of Mortzall. There's Chappelle's video about his newest video. I don't know if you have any particular thing you want to.
Well, Alec Baldwin, I just want to say that I was wondering why they still use real guns.
Well, I've done the research.
I have too.
Oh, okay.
How did you do your research?
On the internet. What do you think? I went to microfiche in the library.
No,
I did the research too.
and you didn't do the research.
I did.
She did the research and found out that they do use fake guns or something. She gets it wrong all the time. So no, I emailed Judd Apatow,
Okay.
and he said that he uses fake guns on his movies.
He doesn't have a lot of guns in his movies. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of.
Well, he must
The
have had.
40-year-old virgin was very light on guns.
I think the Pete Davidson movie might have had a shooting. Didn't it? Didn't have a shooting?
It
Yeah,
did.
it was a
Yes,
shooting.
it
Somebody got
did.
shooting. Yeah.
There was a bank robbery, wasn't there?
Yes.
Something like
With
that.
No,
Jessica
that
Kirson.
store or whatever it was.
With Jessica Kirson.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And he said he uses fake guns, but the reason is, do you want to take a guess why they still use real guns?
Save money in the post.
I want to
No.
take a guess because
Why?
it looks more realistic.
Dan, you know the answer, don't you?
Yeah, the answer is it looks more realistic when they use a when they use a blank. You get the muzzle flash, and you get the sound is authentic, and the muzzle flash is authentic, and the recoil is authentic. And
It's the recoil because it's hard for the actors to mimic. But Judd said they can do it to mimic the recoil. Obviously, the flash they could do with something else. with a light or something.
Well, they could do it in post-production.
And the noise could either be put in post-production or it could be triggered remotely with with Bluetooth or something, or some sort of remote control. But the recoil apparently is what's hard for the actors to get. But that seems like something. If they can mimic getting punched in the face, if you can mimic that, you can certainly mimic the recoil, right?
That is the dumbest explanation I have ever heard.
I
honestly.
think the
You
Wall.
said I gave a dumb explanation.
No,
No, it's not your
I
explanation.
bet if you see it, though, I bet if you see it without the recoil, you're like, oh, it doesn't look right.
No,
It's like
but-
something that would be so subtle, but makes the whole thing feel
You probably have to
fake.
work to get it right because it's.
But what do you mean? I mean, people are playing like, Romeo and Juliet. They're going into like full-blown other characters. They can't lift their arm a little.
Yeah, but looking at you guys do it, you can see how difficult it is.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not
that
an
would never. Well,
actor.
sure.
Well, here's my guess. The force of the gun might lift your hand faster and harder than you can easily physically do it yourself.
That's a good point.
I mean, they should be
So
having real sex then too.
You're not
I
even
don't-
listening, are you? it may be something to be authentic. Now, people may not notice that it's not authentic, but the actual force, it's a forceful thing. And you may not have that kind of strength in your arm to move your hand at that velocity.
But also,
move your
no,
arm.
the muzzle flash I have read looks more real using a blank cartridge as opposed to some post-production wizardry.
Yeah, but they could. The muzzle flash is surmountable in a number of ways without having to put a real projectile in there.
Well, they don't put a real projectile, and they put a blank charge, which is just gunpowder.
Well, but something came out.
Nothing comes out. It just the gases come out
Well, what's the name get shot?
Well,
because there was a real by mistake there was a real bullet in there.
But they say blanks are dangerous too.
Yeah, but only at like point blank range because of the gases come out. They can hurt you, but at a distance, blanks are not dangerous.
But
it was
four
a real-
Jews really shouldn't talk about guns.
No,
We know
well,
nothing.
unless you're saying that I am. If there's anything I'm saying that's inaccurate,
I don't know.
But the crew, I guess the crew during the off time was putting some kind of bullet in it for fun. They were
I think the
shooting
crew
things
was,
for
uh,
fun. Yeah, no, this is real.
What
This is real.
idiots.
they were going
They-
to a local shooting range.
You're kidding.
But they were using the prop guns.
They might have been.
Yeah, there was
at
something
the
where they were
local
using it
shooting
just for,
range,
like,
and
yeah,
so there's
shits and
some
giggles.
they got mixed up in
Wait,
this.
that's astonishing. I haven't been on top of this.
You know, you get bored on set. I mean, you're there for hours, and you're like, "Fuck it, let's put real bullets in this thing." And they just fucked it up. And the bottom line is, someone handed Alec a gun and said "cold gun," and then it was a hot gun. It's horrifying. I started as an actor, and like I've been on weird sets where they give you a gun and they're like, "Do this thing," and it's
Now a lot has been
yes.
made of the fact that people say people that are, gun people say, well, everybody has to everybody that has a gun has to check for themselves whether it's loaded, but I don't know that you can necessarily apply that to a movie set when they have professionals whose job it is to check whether a gun is loaded.
Well, one person said it was a little snide, and I don't usually like snide comebacks, but there was some wisdom to it. He says, I wonder if the scene was Alec Baldwin having to put a gun to his own head if he wouldn't have checked. And, there is something real. I mean, it's not really a criticism of Alec Baldwin because he's only guilty of being human, and that's the way humans are. But if you really drill down to it, yeah, before you shoot a gun at somebody, if it's a real gun, you should check.
Actually,
Just like you would check for yourself or your kids.
Well, actually, I read that Alec Baldwin is sort of notoriously known for being super cautious with guns on set and like making sure there are no children around.
Yes, I love when you say something like that.
It's true. It's horrible.
We have hard evidence that he's not. He just shot somebody, and you're like, well,
I just don't think you can blame him for that. There are 3 people who.
where was his super caution when we
Do you
needed
know
it?
that the guy who was in charge of this whole thing
But-
got fired from the last movie that he worked on for like being unsafe?
Oh,
with
and the
guns?
producer Alec Baldwin hired him, Mr. Caution.
Sure. And then someone told me the armorist, the
Yeah.
person who prepared the gun, is actually the daughter, I believe, of a very famous armorist, and maybe there was some nepotism going on there. And
but I don't think it was. I think it was the assistant director that said it was a cold gun, and I don't know if he had that authority.
It's horrible. I feel
And
so bad for him.
and also, I don't know that Alec Baldwin was supposed to point and shoot it at somebody, even if it was a cold gun, because I don't
think
know
he
what
was
the
improvising?
protocol is. No, I don't know what the protocol is. I've read that the protocol is they're not allowed to pull the trigger until, first of all, they can't point it at anybody, and they have to put up like plexiglass and put everybody in like positions that are safe. And I don't know. I mean, more will come out. But I have a question. If it turns out that Alec Baldwin did something egregiously wrong, say, for example, that SAG rules and movie protocol explicitly state you're not allowed to pull the trigger until everybody is in a position and a certain person says it's okay, whatever. Will Alec Baldwin's career, is he finished?
No.
I hope not. I mean, I countered Periel about him being super cautious, but on the other hand, I think that it's hard to judge a person in a freak accident. This has happened twice in our lifetime. You know,
Was Brandon Lee?
I mean, I don't know enough about it, but I mean, somebody told him the gun was empty, and the professional on the set who was in charge of knowing.
I don't know if it was the professional that said that or just some assistant director who was not authorized.
I mean, point is that it's a very, very freak accident. I feel bad for Alec Baldwin.
It'll go back to the producers, I think, and the problem is it's just too many. Ultimately, yeah, these producers are cutting corners. They're moving too fast. They're hiring people who maybe don't have the experience, but it's too many people to blame for it to, I think, take down Alec Baldwin.
My prediction.
I mean, okay, let me just answer. I think that if it really comes down to the crew taking this gun to a shooting range, that is so out that makes it really 100% their fault, in my opinion. I mean, that's just an outrageously negligent, reckless thing to do. Will Alec Baldwin's career be finished?
Well, what if Alec Baldwin was one of those people that went
Finish how? Because the public won't accept him, or because there's some union like?
Well, no, finish because like nobody wants to touch him. Nobody wants to put the guy who the first thing you think of when you see him, the very first thing that comes to mind is he shot and killed somebody.
Well,
as
Chappelle said, he didn't make fun of gays. He only killed somebody, like the baby. That was Chappelle's whole point. He said that the baby killed somebody.
I mean, that's worth discussing. Why is he less cancelable than Roseanne Barr, for example?
I think if he apologizes, and people, I think most people will understand as a freak accident.
My prediction is as follows. I can't speak to his career in general. He will never get invited back on SNL. That is my prediction. His SNL days are finished. SNL is a comedy show, and he comes on, and everybody's thinking of this guy killed somebody. It's not going to work.
He'll never be vice president.
Oh, I have to tell you.
So I don't think he'll be on SNL anymore.
No, I was kidding. Dick Cheney shot somebody in the face. Yeah. His career went on.
He went from his Trump impression to a Cheney one.
What about the fact that Donald Trump Jr. is selling fucking T-shirts that say "Guns don't kill people, Alec Baldwin kills people"? That is so disgusting. I mean, it's so.
It's so funny. This Trump family is really.
They're just like
You can't see at home. We're all wearing one right now.
It's so classless. I mean, seriously, it really is. And I'm not easily, my feathers don't get ruffled. I just think that, like, the president of the United States family.
I wonder which the artwork is better on, the Trump T-shirts or Hunter Biden's artwork that he's selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I didn't know Hunter Biden was selling artwork.
Yeah. You didn't know that? Yeah.
Nope.
They hired him to design the shirts that he sold. I don't know. We keep talking about it. The problem is, like, yeah, but that's what he does. Why are we surprised anymore? All that work, the fact that we're bringing it up now means that, a bunch of people are going to search it and buy it. If we really wanted to go away, you just don't talk about it. People are going to be like this forever. I think it's sad because people go against, like, edgy the problem is there's been this real mix of, like, making edgy jokes with just joking about the sad thing, and so it becomes conflated where, like, bad jokes become defended as, like, this is comedy though, and it's like, well, it's not a good joke.
Right.
Think of a funny joke of the bad thing. It's this weird, like, Anthony Jeselnik effect where everyone was like, oh cool, he's telling jokes about this.
You know what?
We'll just talk about every tragedy.
That's
with no
fine.
skill.
If Anthony does it, then great.
Sure.
And probably hilarious.
Yeah.
But, like, coming from, like, the presidential family, it's just, like, in such fucking poor taste.
Yeah.
It's, like, so petty. Because you're mad Alec Baldwin made fun of your dad on SNL. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah. We shouldn't be surprised. If someone made fun of my dad for 4 years and they fucked up somehow, I'd probably make a snide joke too.
You would think there was somebody with some sense to be like, you know what, that's kind of fucking tacky, Don Jr.
I bet you he made a fucking $1 million off that shit.
I don't think so. And he's also out there killing, like, rare exotic animals.
Now Alec Baldwin.
He thought they were blanks, to be fair.
Alec Baldwin has done a few classless things in his life too. Let's just let the record state.
Okay, well, those of us, nobody should throw.
Is that a hole in your mask?
Shut up.
Okay.
Adrian Iapolucci made a hilarious tweet about that, what you just said.
Go ahead.
Remember when we thought it was bad when Alec Baldwin called his daughter a rude pig?
Oh. So what's next on your list, Dan?
Well, so much to choose from. We'll talk about Chappelle's.
Chappelle's Instagram?
It was a video. Is it on Instagram? I guess so.
On Instagram.
Where he said that he's willing to. He said that he was accused of not being willing to meet with leaders of the trans community or whatever. I don't know who those leaders are.
Netflix
Oh,
trans employees.
Netflix trans. Okay, that was
sure. I'm not
yeah.
sure.
Netflix. I think it was Netflix trans employees.
He has a film coming out about the comedy.
Well,
that he was,
we'll get to that.
Okay.
But he came out with a video that said he's willing to meet with them at a time and place of his choosing.
That's what George Bush said about the terrorists, right? We'll meet you at a time and place of our
He
choosing.
also said the same thing about Hannah Gadsby. It was very strange when Bush.
And well, yes, and the other the conditions are that they need to watch his entire special and admit Hannah Gadsby is not funny.
And that he would set the time and place.
And he would set the time and place to meet with, I guess, the trans Netflix employees. I don't know how many trans Netflix employees there are, but I guess some number of them. But in any case,
or maybe it's trans people who are I don't know who.
Well, whoever he's going to meet with, some members of the trans community, but be they Netflix employees or otherwise.
I don't know what to say about this whole thing. I don't care what Dave Chappelle says.
Well, what about the Hannah Gadsby?
What about the Hannah Gadsby?
I don't know. I mean, I guess he was just kidding. I assume he doesn't really mean that they have to admit she's not funny.
No,
do you
I
think
that was a joke, Dan?
I understand that, but
do I think what?
do you think Hannah Gadsby's not funny?
I actually.
And what do you think of Dave's position vis-a-vis Hannah Gadsby?
You want to take that?
Oh, sure. I enjoyed Nanette. I thought Nanette was a very good one-person show.
Was it funny?
There were a couple moments. Me personally, it wasn't my.
Well, there's a difference between saying.
But neither was the closer.
Yeah, there's a difference between saying Nanette is not funny and Hannah Gadsby's not funny. I don't know enough. It's possible Hannah Gadsby is quite funny, but that the net was a departure for her in a different direction.
I like the net.
Every special was a departure. Maybe they're funny outside of all.
Well,
the
I only
comedic
saw the one special.
Sure,
but you could argue that Chappelle's done stuff that's not that funny. Like, well, you said the closer. I thought there were some funny moments, but it wasn't a punchline a minute. And then there was also that thing he did.
There's some funny moments in Chinatown, but I wouldn't call it a comedy.
There's some funny, yeah. There's also what he did that 8.5 minutes or what was it? The George.
Oh
Floyd.
yeah.
What happened to your nose? Your mother closed her legs too fast or something? I was in Chinatown. Because
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Here's the end of the closer. Chappelle loves to talk about comedy. He said comedians should speak recklessly, and there's like a tribe of comedians. And he ends the closer talking about his trans friend who killed herself. And it was like she was part of the comedian tribe. So it does seem like a strange kind of pivot to then like make this public moment to kind of insult Hannah Gadsby. It's just a strange thing to be like, we're all comedians, we're family, and then like go after someone in a way where you have this big following. So it's just going to be a bunch of people posting shitty things on Hannah Gadsby's account. It just feels unnecessary. Chappelle's so much bigger. And I'm sure it's tough when you're a comedian. You want to talk shit, and you have so many followers that if you talk shit about someone, they descend on them. That sucks, but that's the reality. And he's had this clout for a while. So it seems like he'd wield it with a slightly more grace than just like saying fuck you to someone.
Yeah, I agree with you. Unless Hannah Gadsby has done something to Dave personally, then he feels that she merits that kind of treatment.
Well,
I think
said some harsh words.
Yeah,
there must be a backstory with Hannah Gadsby.
There is. I mean, I don't know.
She's a public figure. He can make a joke about it.
Yeah, I mean Hannah. First of all, I'll start by saying that I think Hannah Gadsby is
a genius. Go ahead.
Shut up. Is incredibly funny, but no, who gives a shit what I think?
What was your favorite line from Nanette that really had you rolling out on the floor?
I don't have a favorite line from Nanette, but that doesn't.
Can you remember a single funny?
There's a video. It's Nanette at the Apollo where they intersplice clips of Nanette with the Apollo.
When she did Def Comedy Jam, was that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Listen, I think that Dave, I don't know. I mean, I think that, I think it's disgusting that people descend upon Hannah's account and say
It's just her account.
no, but I mean, it's hurtful and it's bullying and it's, are you even on Instagram? Do you even see what I send you on Instagram?
Sometimes. Why they descended on her account because of Dave?
Yeah, whenever, because she wrote something that was.
I reject your argument. It really kind of annoys me.
I didn't even make an argument.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you why I reject.
But what argue? I didn't even finish my fucking sentence. What are you?
Finish it, and then I'll tell you what you said. Go ahead.
No, tell me first.
If Hannah Gadsby was somebody that you thought was, abominable in some way, if Hannah Gadsby was some politician that you disliked, you would have no problem with the people descending on their account. You are 100% if your ox is gored. You have no principles whatsoever. It's true. I've never heard you stand up for a principle. It's only, they're picking on Hannah Gadsby, who's, a lesbian, or and I agree with her point of view. If they're picking on, some, I don't know, Curtis Lewa, anybody that you don't support, you'd be totally fine with it.
Why do you think I don't support Curtis Lewa?
When people were coming up to what's her name, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, in restaurants and attacking her when she was Trump's press secretary, you were fine with it.
Well, she was a horrible person.
You were fine with it. She couldn't even eat in a restaurant.
Well,
people were really being harsh to her.
She has no business.
I think politicians should have more trouble out in the world.
I
think there should be
Hannah
more
Gadsby-
confrontation.
Or any Republican just sitting minding their own business in a restaurant. You are totally fine with people coming get in their face. But Hannah Gadsby's account.
Okay,
they descended with words on her account.
You know
what she had to do? She had to look at her account. She logged in and had to look at it.
Well, it certainly can be upsetting to be harassed on Twitter, but you can mute anybody that doesn't follow you. I think it's pretty easy to do so that you only see people that are basically, or that you
agree
follow.
With you 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
You only have to see people that you like.
Can we just point out every time from now on that Periel says anything and it's hypocritical?
I mean,
she's unbelievable.
Obviously, Trump did not read or see all the things that people said about him, and I think it's pretty easy to configure your Twitter to just not see that. But
It's one thing to have an opinion against something else. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was just a disgusting human being.
In your view.
Well, I think objectively, can we have?
So what's your principle is that you can descend on anybody that Periel thinks is disgusting.
No, I think that there's a moral and ethical compass to being alive.
How about we don't descend on anybody?
I don't agree. I think in politeness, a lot of people get away with shit. Sometimes
politeness is okay. I mean, you can be confront somebody, but you should not bother people eating in restaurants, and you shouldn't call people names, and you shouldn't. I don't know what people are saying in Hannah Gadsby. You shouldn't make fun of their sexuality.
If Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby or God knows who else, or fucking Hitler sitting in the olive tree, they deserve to just be treated like a nice person.
If they're legally
no, I don't. Agree
if they are
with
legally at liberty, if they're not incarcerated, if they're not, and they're sitting in a restaurant, even the olive tree. Yes, you should leave them alone.
So if they're incarcerated, then you can. If they're about to go to jail and they've been found guilty, then you can be an asshole to them.
No, just mind your own fucking business and don't bother people.
I don't think that you can be a public figure in politics and do horrible things.
So maybe we should have people on the rack in the town square again.
But isn't this what people are doing on Twitter though? Isn't that what? But because on Twitter, people are harassing.
I'm against it.
Okay.
I'm against it. I'm just saying she's not actually against it. She's just against it because she likes Hannah Gadsby. I'm actually against it.
But I also don't.
I'm saying not to even do it to Cosby, who obviously I hate Cosby. He's a horrible person. He's a criminal. He's a rapist. But I'm saying I have a principle, which is this is not good for society.
I tell you what. I hope that I'd love for Dave Chappelle to call me out in front of probably 100 million people saw that video.
Yeah.
I would very much enjoy that. Because I think that would certainly be good for my career. And although Hannah Gadsby...
speaking of space Jews, let's talk about...
Well, sure. Whatever any publicity is good, they say. Maybe that's not true, but it's mostly true. And I think Hannah Gadsby probably did ultimately benefit from this little feud that she's had.
Oh, I don't think it's wrong with Chappelle said. He's just making a joke. I'm talking about the people.
No, but I'm saying
she's
Hannah Gadsby will be harassed on Twitter, but she probably will gain more than she loses from Chappelle.
But
calling her
I
out.
mean, I also think Hannah Gadsby. I mean, to be fair, with when Michael Che was going through his Instagram thing, Hannah Gadsby was the first to be like, let me kind of own Che, let me weigh in on this. And I think it's weird when comedians. I do think comedians have to resist the temptation to automatically try to shit over another comedian for easy clout. When Michael Che, he made all the jokes about Simone Biles, and then he got a lot of flack. And Hannah Gadsby, of course, posted on Instagram something like. Michael Che joked that he had been hacked. And then Hannah Gadsby put a post that said, what do you call a hack who blames a hack joke on a hacking? Michael Che.
Right.
And I did find that just so
Yeah,
obnoxious.
I agree
so
with you.
Yeah, I
virtue
mean,
signaling,
I-
and also a terrible joke.
I agree with you on that. That wasn't nice, and
Well,
it wasn't necessary.
But I'm saying, but that's all this. All of a sudden, we're looking at Chappelle and Hannah Gadsby, and no one's talking about is any of this funny? Is there any good joke here? Is there anything about this that's comedy?
Well, I
at
thought
all?
him saying that they had to admit she wasn't funny was kind of
That-
funny.
yeah, I
it was
laughed.
it was a funny joke.
I left.
But ultimately, it's just
But you're
millionaires
saying-
just making fun
You're
of each other.
saying that you don't think comics, as a general matter, should attack other comics,
I think comics should be
or should at least be very
hesitant.
prudent before.
And don't
doing
get me
so.
wrong. I've made my fair share of Joe Rogan jokes on Twitter as a nobody person, and I think if I become more of a somebody, I should be more cognizant. But I think it's more like when a comic is being dragged for a joke, comics should be more hesitant. I think if you're criticizing, let's say, Joe Rogan's view on vaccines, I do think there's this is not comedy. You can maybe make fun of it, but when someone's getting in trouble for a joke, and you as a comedian understand that if a joke missed or hit, or it just was about something sensitive, to automatically join the masses going, you're bad for making that joke, I think is disingenuous, and comedians pretend all of a sudden they don't understand what the intention was, and I think that's gross.
I like that.
I agree.
take.
I
like
think that was well said. As a I mean, there might be a case where I thought that somebody's joke was so out of bounds, that
About the Jews.
Well, look, I mean, Chappelle's joke about space Jews, I thought was misinformed, and I thought presented a biased or a inaccurate portrait of what's going on. But I'm not going to call him a bad person for it, or take get all high and mighty and moral about it. But I will say that I didn't like that joke and thought it presented things in a false way. I think you know the joke that I'm referring to.
As opposed to the Jackie Mason jokes about Puerto Rican stealing. That's your favorite one.
Well, the difference the difference there is that
I'm not Puerto Rican.
That one's true.
No. The difference there is, if there is a difference, is that the stereotypes of Puerto Rican stealing is a known stereotype. Even if it's not true, it's. In other words, Chappelle is presenting
I think
something as
I'm gonna
very, very real.
I think what you're getting at is that Chappelle was actually making a political statement.
Right.
Jackie Mason may or may not have been, but Jackie Mason's statement might have been more lighthearted. But I don't know if I were Puerto Rican. I don't know if I would like that. So
No,
you may be right.
You got to take it.
And by the way, did I say it was a good joke? I guess I did.
You said it was your favorite
The best joke
of all time.
It was my favorite. No, it was my favorite half and half joke.
Yeah, I know.
Which is a genre of jokes I don't love, but among them,
That was your favorite.
that was my favorite. You may be right. Maybe it's not. You shouldn't do that. Maybe you shouldn't talk about Puerto Rican stealing. Yeah, okay. Maybe you got me. Maybe you got me.
I would also say the space Jews joke is not a great joke.
It wasn't
It's
a
not
great
a
joke
great
either.
constructed
It was not
joke.
a great joke. It was not. a
It's.
great
I mean, I could hear it at an open mic. I
Yeah,
could totally.
anybody could have come up with that joke. You didn't need Chappelle to it didn't take a mind like Chappelle's to come up with that joke. Anybody, I agree with you.
I will say this: he seemed very upset in that video that he released. He really did.
Yeah,
in the
one-
Instagram one.
because
Yeah.
the film festivals have been canceling.
Well, yeah, the
premieres.
film festival's canceled. He made a film about his comedy summer camp in the cornfield in Ohio, which I believe you went to, Noam. Is that correct? And he made a documentary about it. And he said he was invited to every film fest. I can't do a good Chappelle impression, but he was invited to every film festival, and he started to get disinvited after the closer. And so he's mad about that. But he's going to bring the movie to 10 cities on limited release, and we have the opportunity to go and make him richer and watch the movie.
I saw it. It's good.
Don't
the
say that. Make
documentary.
him richer.
Well,
That's
I'm-
not fair.
But I mean,
I
that's the way.
mean-
That's the way
I'm
like
sure
he-
it's good.
I'm not saying it's not good, but the way he presented it is like
I don't think he's making money from that movie.
maybe
or
not.
He talked about how corporations were silencing him and then applauded arguably one of the biggest entertainment corporations in America. He basically said corporations are trying to cancel me, but thank you, Netflix, for sticking by me. And I'm like, well, then corporations aren't trying to cancel you.
No.
No,
He said
other
he
corporations
said,
are.
he
One
said-
corporation is not.
He said that all of this is fucking bullshit because really nobody's actually listening to what he said, and they're just trying to create some like media.
I don't think that's
bullshit.
fully true, though. I mean, there's this argument of
I-
like no one's actually heard the thing, and I'm like, I think they have. I don't think no one's watched the special. I mean, I certainly watched it, and I understand why people would disagree with it.
I think it's fine to disagree with it, but I also think that it's very in mode and in vogue and in fashion right now to be so scandalized by things that like actually in your real life you don't fucking give a shit about, so you want to cancel people.
What do you mean cancel?
I mean, he just said he got disinvited from like every single film festival.
Sure. Then
5 years ago he wouldn't have. Like, are any of these people actually supporting trans people in their real lives?
I think some of them are.
Well,
I think some of them are, and I ultimately think like, look, Netflix has profited immensely off LGBT entertainment and presenting themselves during Gay Pride Month as this progressive institution. And so I do think people have every right to be like, hey, we gave you money under this premise that you care, and then there's something that feels very harmful, and it doesn't feel like you're promoting other transgender artists. And so I don't know. There's just a certain degree of like, look, the special wasn't that funny. So what were people supposed to do? You wanted people to get
I thought
upset.
it was funny.
I mean, it's to me it was not a super well written special.
No, I didn't. There weren't a ton. There was a lot of time that it wasn't that where he wasn't joking.
it's
Sure.
which is Chappelle's. In my opinion, I've said this for years. Right, Chappelle has a particular talent where he can be very engaging, and you can just sit and listen to him, and you don't need the punchline to find him interesting and be enthralled. So I don't mind when he doesn't hit punchlines, but every punchline he did hit, I found funny.
But don't you think that he presented an illegitimate comparison where he basically was trying to he created a world where it was like the black community and then there was the LGBT community that in the way that he presented it was only white people. And so in my mind, he created a world and created an argument that was built on a false premise.
Okay, there are arguments that Chappelle made that I do not agree with. And not just about space Jews. But I
Hilarious.
said this last week. I'm wary of the conversation becoming about that because I think the issue is much more important than that. The issue is that Chappelle should be able to say whatever he wants, and we're coming close to saying the implication. Somebody might infer from this conversation that, well, if we all agree that what he said was wrong, then maybe Netflix should pull the special. And I think that's.
I don't think that's. I
Yeah.
don't agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think
that's.
it
But
should
I'm
be
saying
pulled.
like unless we really make clear what we're saying here, that's what people will start to veer into. Chappelle made certain arguments that you may strongly disagree with. He made some arguments I disagree with. In a different time where there would be no risk of, like when Spike Lee's movie Do the Right Thing came out, there was a lot of controversy about that movie and some things that were actually offensive about that movie. But nobody ever, was not on anybody's radar, maybe they shouldn't show the movie. Maybe this movie should get pulled. How dare whatever Universal put this movie out? That was never part of the conversation. So it was fine just to get into a debate about the movie. It's a different time now, and I think we're getting into a debate about what he actually said is a little dangerous because it becomes ammunition for a movement which we all really need to stand against, which is he should say whatever he wants, period.
I don't disagree. I just think like, and again, it's these conversations. Sometimes when there's no trans person in the room, I think it's like, are we having the full conversation? Period. But ultimately, I think like trans people in America, this is a very general understanding, are a marginalized group that are the suicide rate is incredibly high, the murder rate is incredibly high, and I do think like it's fair to be like, Jesus Christ, 40 fucking minutes 40 fucking minutes where like you're projecting the majority of opinion of America, where people are treating trans people horribly and not accommodating anything in society that I understand. And we talk about danger, and I'm like, if you're a trans person with the murder rate and the suicide rate so fucking high, you're like, you want to talk about danger? Let's talk about danger. Like,
Well,
I mean,
I have a very.
that's why I think we need to. There's a certain degree where it's like, without a trans person in the room or trans people having this conversation, we're having a conversation without understanding what it is to be a trans person in the world.
Who's on the schedule
right
tonight?
now?
We got Jay McBride. Can we bring her?
No, let me say this.
I'm sure every trans person is also tired of talking about
I
this.
spoke to a trans comedian about this, and she didn't like the special, but she wasn't particularly bothered. Then I spoke to one of my very close friends who's trans, and she told me, it's funny, like, if I've always known somebody, this is just being honest, if I've only met somebody trans after they've transitioned, then it's automatically to call them by the proper gender. But when I've known somebody who transitioned, it is very difficult to break that habit of referring to them by their old gender. Anyway,
I know we're working on it.
yeah.
Though.
So when I speak to my very, very close friend, Periel knows her, about it, she said that she thought the special was fine, and that her trans friends, she said overwhelmingly her trans friends thought the special was fine, although some of them disagree with some of the stuff, and they were not like freaking out about this special. So there's no trans people in the room, but I have done due diligence about that.
Well, my take on it as somebody who's not trans is just, if I'm looking at it and I'm saying, in terms of would this special cause people to hate trans people? And
No.
when you see Chappelle, who's a black man, so he's talking to the black community, in particular, and saying trans is okay. I have trans friends. My trans friend she opened for me. Even though he's making jokes, and even though he's, there's a little bit of ribbing, to say the least. At the end of the day, they're seeing a man from their community, and to the extent that there's transphobia in the black community, I think it's a good thing that Chappelle goes out there and says, I have trans friends. My good friend opened for me was a trans woman. I think ultimately, I think he said explicitly, they should have every right and protection that anybody else has.
Yeah, but
so
I think like, okay, so my younger, I have a younger brother who like watched the special, and he's he's young, he loves it. He loves every comedy special he sees. It's at that age where all comedy is great to him, except for Nanette. And he sees what I would consider like an easy gender joke, like Chappelle's saying, your mom was the greatest man I ever knew, or he did some joke where he just took both genders and put it into one sentence. And so like my little brother sees that, and I think to him it reinforces an easy kind of humor at someone else's expense that is like the same reason that we frown on saying like doing an easy a Chinese accent, where it's like, yeah, you could get people to laugh, but it's an easy joke. It's a simple joke that ultimately like it's hack because it's done all the time. You go to an open mic.
We can debate the merits of the humor or not. Does it engender hatred, and is it dangerous?
It engenders disrespect. I don't think it. Maybe it doesn't. But it brings about where you're like, oh, you can make this joke. And I think it's not, oh, you can't make this joke because you shouldn't have freedom of speech. It's more like, don't make this joke because this person is already struggling with the world as it's structured today and how they feel inside. So let's not make this easy fucking joke that's been made for the last 100 years.
Can we make the argument, though, also that maybe his actions sort of speak louder than his jokes? I mean, he gave this woman like a huge platform, and she loved him, and they were really close friends.
But she
did
stand up 8 times. Like this idea that she like.
I would do stand up 8 times for Dave. Like, no. And then he also said that she killed herself, and I don't know if this is true or what, but my understanding is that her community really turned against her when she stood up for Dave, and she said, no, he's not anti-trans, and
we don't know why she killed herself, but I do think it's cynical, and I do think it's exploitative that, okay, he let someone who had done stand up 8 times open for him, and then used the story to close out his how much did he get paid for that special? Was it $26 million?
I don't
How much
know.
money did he give? So I'm saying, like, ultimately,
Well, I
he
mean,
made profit
but
off
then
it.
He did say he started a trust fund for her daughter.
Does he need that?
Okay,
though?
it's okay, but it's when people with that much money give a trust fund, like he
doesn't
gained 15 minutes in a $26 million
he
special off it.
doesn't need 15 minutes to exploit somebody. Like, he could come up with anything.
Writing is tough.
Do you think?
Yeah,
Deadlines are tough.
And I want to say for the record that Jay McBride said that she was considering transitioning back just so she didn't have to answer any more questions about Dave Chappelle.
Well, there you go.
Well, that's kind of funny. Do you think?
I think
That is a very funny
that your argument you're making is on the face of it reasonable, but then as I think about it, I'm like, no, it's actually a terrible argument in my opinion. Because
Better you than me.
I'll tell you why. You have to be able to make jokes about people and things, and what you can't. People are gonna start wrapping themselves in we're off limits, and that's not even good for them. Nobody likes somebody who puts themselves off limits. If you want to be accepted in society, sure, you can make jokes about me. You have to be able to do that. Dave made some jokes. Your mom was the best man I ever knew. Whatever. I mean, it's a trans joke. You can't have trans jokes. For you to say that creates bigotry, I don't think that's where bigotry comes from at all.
Well,
I do not think that's what
I made a
causes
similar
bigotry.
argument when people were arguing about whether Apu, the character of Apu, was bad for Indian Americans in The Simpsons, and I said, well, if anything, he's being included as kind of part of the family, and he's being ribbed in a way. But so is Krusty Herschel Krostowski, and so is the Scottish guy that did the groundskeeper Willie. And so,
But it's also done in a way where, like, we can look at it like that. But I'm sure if you talk to any Indian kid who was called a poo, like as a joke by their friends, they said, "Oh, fuck this, fuck your version of inclusivity."
Look, any character that Jackie Mason was ever hired to play was a Jewish joke, right? He never had a part that wasn't
Sure.
funny because he was Jewish, and that was okay.
But there's also a lot of Jews getting
Well, you agree with
getting
that, right?
the stage. Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's a
so
lot.
he was Apu. He was the Jewish Apu. You want an Apu
There's a lot.
moment.
There was a lot more Jews perform. Like, okay, if there was a Chappelle level stand-up comedian who was also trans and getting a huge Netflix special, which there isn't right now, it would feel a little bit more of an equal playing field. There were so many Jews on stage, so many Jews getting hours.
Yeah, but but you see what I'm saying? Listen, I don't know if it's still true, but there was a time when all these like 7-Eleven things, there really were Indian people working there. Even Joe Biden made some remark about it. Wasn't Biden made the remark about the Indian people at 7-Eleven? But anyway, there was just like Greeks owned diners. When I was a kid, every single diner, to some extent, it still was owned by a Greek. So John Belushi in Saturday Night Live did that thing, a hamburger. This was a send
he also
up.
did the samurai sword.
No, but he did a send up of the Greek diner. And Simpsons did a send-up of the Indian convenience store. And when you start to cordon these things off, it's an endless thing, and it's a mistake. I just think it's a mistake. It's going to lead to ruin. It's going to lead to an uptight society where people are constantly offended, and it has another effect, which is part of human nature, is that people start looking for reasons to be offended. And that's really where we are now. People love to get offended.
But can I argue that I think part of the reason why it's become such a tool to say you're offended is because a lot of aspects of society have not progressed in a way. I think if things were more equal and things were more inclusive,
Indian people are the highest earning people in America. What more equality do they need?
That you're talking about average. You're not talking about an Indian kid in school getting teased, or you're not talking about. I'd have to talk to an Indian person at a certain point. I just think,
well, you're right. You're right. People will make fun of an Indian person.
If there were a lot of trans comedians getting specials on Netflix,
let's back up to what you said, because this is an important point. It is true that when kids see Apu on The Simpsons, it's very likely that they might start using that accent to make fun of their Indian friend in school. That's true. I can't deny that. I still don't think that's enough reason to tell society that they can't make jokes. I think people
felt they had to resort to that because when's the Indian character in Simpsons who doesn't have an extreme accent or who has an accent?
Well, I mean,
that's another point too.
Every character in The Simpsons is ridiculous. Homer is a
white character,
stupid imbecile.
Sure.
I mean, maybe Lisa's the only character that's not absurd.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But this is an interesting thing also. So kids, do you think they wouldn't still find a way to make fun of the Indian kid who's, if they haven't been exposed to people? I mean, kids are bullies. And the kid who's odd, and odd, I mean odd in the sense of pejorative,
Different.
different, is going to get made fun of. And this is an unfortunate aspect of human nature. We're not going to change that. As a matter of fact, I wonder if the net amount of cruelty will ever change, no matter what we do as a society, to try to not, because it's within us, and it expresses itself not because we saw The Simpsons. It expresses itself because it's a loaded gun. And it goes off. That's who we are as a species. And I mean, Hitler managed to do all this stuff without television, with barely anything, right? Like imagine, where did all that hate come from? They had nothing. They had nothing. They had no Apu. They had nothing. But they managed to do cartoon caricatures. There's always a way. The cruelty of the human race will always find a way to come out. And I don't think layering on a bunch of rules and things that you can't make, I don't think it's going to make any impact whatsoever. None.
I think diversity, especially of entertainment, can, for me, I grew up in theater,
You're talking about positive diversity. Yeah, it would be great to see more leading men who are Indian in the movie.
Sure, but I would argue that when that occurs, and if that was occurring at a speed that was real, it would not be the world that we're living in today. I think part of the pushback and part of cancel culture, whatever you want to call it, is because there was no speed with that. White people were in no hurry to make sure they had an Indian lead. And so, guess what?
Well, why would they when there was a tiny number of Indians in the country? Now that there's more Indians in the country, and Slumdog Millionaire was a huge hit, right?
When did that movie come out?
I don't know, 15
and
years ago.
that's still the reference point.
No, but I'm saying it showed that there's a market for it. Aziz is a big star. Aziz is
of course, but I'm saying I don't think white people have been in a hurry to let's fix the problem. And I think, here's the consequence of it is that people are a little bit more sensitive.
Listen, we didn't know there was a problem. We have a country, a wonderful country where people can come as immigrants from all over the world. And people come from India. And I think it's quite a long time before a new population, there weren't many Indian people when I was growing up. It's quite a long time before a new population is going to be integrated in that way. Nor would they expect, as soon as they set foot in America now, to see leading men. If we all moved to Japan or China or whatever it is, we wouldn't really expect to see white people in leading roles in Chinese movies. They would have to reach a critical mass of impact and ubiquitousness within that culture before we would expect to see it reflected in movies. That's what to call it bigotry is not really an accurate description of what's going on there. And there is bigotry.
But you're acting like movie producers in Hollywood fully work off of being rational, that none of them have ever let their biases play into what they produce. I'm saying
not acting like that at all.
Sure, that's what I'm saying is it's not necessarily a full reflection of now there's enough Indian people here to make money, we'll put them in leads. I also think there's producers going I like
Listen,
this.
I'm gonna make a prediction. If you ever find yourself in the movie business or writing scripts, you're not gonna write an Indian lead character. You don't know the first thing about writing an Indian lead character.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah, that's so.
It'll be me. I'll be the fucking lead.
Is that because you're some kind of bigot? No, of course not.
Yeah,
that's my point. It's who's it takes a while to get into
look,
that.
Hollywood is not. Anybody can theoretically produce a movie, raise the money. It's not easy, but the Indian community, if they wished, could do that and try to get distribution and all of that. Nothing is stopping them. I don't know how.
By the way, I want to ask you another question.
Sure.
If there was a character like a silly Simpsons Hasid, you think you would object to it? You took too long to answer already. You already proved my point. Because don't tell me that Hasids are not at least as reviled or made fun of or bigoted objects of bigotry as Indian people.
Sure. Could we also say that? First of all, The Simpsons is a very rare.
You got my point, right?
Wait, you didn't give me a second. You didn't give me a second
because the answer should have been instant. Of course I would. Because it doesn't take long to do the math.
Would there be other Jewish characters, or would that be the only?
No.
If there was one Jew on the
not
Simpsons,
Jewish.
then it was the
Hasids.
Hasids.
You can't. Hasids are not a stand-in for Jews. Hasids are an insular group that even Jews make fun of. They are odd and they're disliked and they're beaten up on the streets.
I'm sure if they watch The Simpsons, they might complain too.
They are the number one targets of hate crimes, violent hate crimes in America.
Is that true?
Well, we know that anti-Semitic violence is the number one hate crime. I mean, it's predominantly identifiable Jews. It's not everyday Jews. It's people with garb.
So the question of what were they?
But there are favored intersectional targets that are people that we rally around and close ranks around, and Hasids are not one of them. And by the way, of course you should be able to make fun of Hasids.
Of course
you should.
I've made fun of plenty.
If SNL wanted to do a B&H skit and they had some Hasid, well, I mean, I would just pray that the Jews would shut up and take it, because I don't want.
But they wouldn't.
Right, I know they wouldn't, but I don't want the Jews to be seen as this touchy minority who don't allow jokes about themselves. That's what I don't think is healthy, and I don't think it's good for any group to find themselves like that. Now, it's true that a joke,
which was the brilliance.
Apu could be mean. I'm not saying that. Like, I could see Apu, and I might say, that's a little too much. That's disturbing. I think that's cruel. So I'm not saying that any joke is okay, or that I would rubber stamp any joke. But the notion that you can't make the baseline jokes about particular groups of people, whether it's Indian or Hasids, I think is a big, huge mistake. And I think it backfires on the group who all of a sudden is like, you can't make fun of me.
Well, because
you make fun of him, you can't make fun of me.
Because,
you make fun of the Jews, you can't make fun of us Indians.
That's because
that's terrible.
When Michael Che made that remark, he did a Jewish joke on SNL, and the Jewish community, many members of the Jewish community were up in arms about it. And I said to myself, first of all, it's probably written by a Jewish writer in the writer's room, so that made it go down a little easier. But also, I don't want people to think that we control everything. Every now and again, we got to let one go.
Every now and again, we have to pretend we don't.
We got to pretend we don't. So it's like in World War II when they cracked the Germans' code and they said we can't. It was like a famous case where they cracked the code of the Germans and like they knew they were going to blow up a ship. They said we got to let them blow up the ship, because if we don't let them blow up the ship, they'll know we cracked the code, and then we'll further shit down the line.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when I'm
keep our powder
sure
dry.
The people on the ship weren't so happy about that.
We're not. No. do you think that Netflix, if they felt their bottom line would be severely impacted by keeping the special on, would pull it? If they felt that their bottom line would
For sure.
would be
Of course.
affected?
Of course they would.
I mean, how much of this is just a business decision? How
It's all a business
how
decision.
cynical are we about the corporate decision making? Is any of it guided by anything other than the bottom line?
No.
Well, you use a word which is wide enough to drive a truck through, which is significantly impacted. At some point, that's the way I felt about Louis. At some point, to my bottom line, of course, I would have to buckle, but not any hit to the bottom line.
Well, also you're a proprietor. You're a sole proprietor, whereas Netflix is I guess a public company.
It's a public company.
So I mean, it's a little bit different because they have this fiduciary duty to their stockholders not to fuck around. You can look if you want to take $100,000 hit to defend your principles, you have the right to do that. But a corporation, theoretically, they don't have that right.
I don't know. I mean, you were pretty willing to not buckle for that. You didn't really know how it was going to shake down.
Well, but he's saying he would be willing to take maybe a $100K hit, a $200K, but $1 million hit he wouldn't be willing to take.
I definitely wouldn't take a permanent hit. I don't think that Netflix is obligated by law to react to anything, any controversy that hurts ratings. I don't think
well, there is.
They have a long-term obligation to their stockholders, but I don't think it's a day-by-day obligation.
I mean, hopefully not. Otherwise, they're running on like a pretty shoestring budget. No.
Netflix is such a rich company.
I just wanted to say that.
But yeah, of course, at some point they would have to.
I'm glad that the Hasids are lumped in with the Jews. I mean, with the women who get assaulted, and it's not just the women who say what were they wearing. You also know that it's the Hasids then that when a Jew gets attacked.
Anything?
Nothing. Okay, I tried. It seemed. I think my
translation. Try without the mask.
This, by the way, Noam, I do want to point out that we had, I thought, correct me if you disagree, an interesting discussion about a serious topic, all without the help of somebody that wrote an article for The Atlantic last week or that tweeted something. I mean, we were capable of doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, we found a smart
all
comedian.
by
Wait, who's we?
ourselves.
Who's we? Who found a smart comedian?
It was a
Well, he's
fictive we.
better than smart. He's somebody that disagrees with you, which is even more.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah.
Which is even better for what
I'm
we're trying to
thinking-
accomplish here.
I'm still on for 10:30.
But I'm not sure. So what is his opinion? So you think Chappelle's special should be pulled?
No, I think
Should have never been made?
No, I think it's totally fair game for people to critique. I think there's a lot of people like being like funny is funny, and I'm like I don't think it was a
Yeah, but I'm not sure. But I'm
particularly
not
good special.
Yeah, but hold on. But let me make it difficult for you because I
Okay,
think
go
that
for
you're
it.
contradicting yourself,
Sure.
or at least you're not putting it all the way through. You don't think that these types of jokes should be made about trans people?
I think they're lazy, and I think they should be called out for the lazy.
No, but you also said you think it could lead to cruelty to children, and you think that these are societal ill.
Yeah, I'm very hesitant to say no joke, any particular joke shouldn't be made. I think it's fair for people to criticize and say, yeah, maybe this is harmful.
So if it's harmful, why do you think Netflix should run it?
Because I am sympathetic to the idea that you do have to stay strong for free speech and constantly be very vigilant about giving up on it. But I do think...
So if you were the head of Netflix, you would have greenlit the special even though you thought it would be harmful?
I don't think you get to tell Chappelle what his special is going to be. You made the deal with the person before this all started, and this is the fire you play with if you produce comedy. But
Well, no, there's some things he might have said which you wouldn't have
sure,
off on.
but I don't think...
But this doesn't rise to the level of something you think should have been halted.
No,
But it's harmful and
but
could
I
hurt
think
children.
I think if it's listen when you harmful, it's a we're talking about I don't think there's a 1-to-1 here. I think we're talking about you have this institution that has a lot of money that produces a lot of art, and I think yes, if you give a certain degree of freedom to this comedian, and they have, I think, unfortunately, chosen to focus so strangely on this one topic that if you're a company that has profited immensely off, you have your whole LGBT shows and fan base and Twitter account, then you might go, okay, I should at least try to even the playing field and try to really put resources into trans comedians, giving them specials, TV shows to at least counterbalance. Ultimately, I don't think if you're looking to Netflix to be your moral center, I think you're crazy. It is an institution trying to make money. But I do think people this is the only way to make change, and this is the only way to force people like Netflix to actually produce content that reflects the views that they've capitalized on during Gay Pride Month, is this kind of reaction. And I also think that this is what was wanted. This is what Chappelle wanted. You don't come swinging this hard at something if you don't want people to be upset. So there's sometimes it's like this theater of the you're not going to cancel me, and I'm like you wanted this. You wanted people to be pissed off at you. What, are you surprised? Your whole thing was Twitter's not a real place, and now you're upset because people on Twitter are mad at you. Pick if you waged this battle. Now work through it.
I think he is. I don't know that he's upset. I just know that he's still in the battle. I don't presume to know what's going on in his head.
Can we perhaps end with a word about Mort Saul, who died this week at the age of 94? Our dear friend Fred Kaplan, by the way, wrote a obituary. I don't know. Did he send it to you?
I don't know. I've been practicing my guitar and mandolin a few hours a day for the last couple of weeks.
Wow.
And I've not been watching the news or anything.
Well, in any case, the truth is I don't know anything about Mort Saul, but he was an important player, I guess, in early stand-up, and Fred Kaplan wrote an obituary about him, which I guess you didn't read. But
I listened to his albums recently. It was tough. I didn't fully, and he was doing a lot of political kind of talking. not
You didn't
super
find
punchline.
you didn't find the Adelaide Stevenson's jokes funny?
Yeah. It was just it was one of those. It's like when I listen to Lenny Bruce and I'm like, okay, I get this was important, but
I don't
It
know
was
if
a
Lenny
tough
Bruce was
listen.
actually ever funny.
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know much about him either.
I don't know.
Oh boy.
All right,
Dustin
so
Hoffman was
maybe,
good in the
maybe we
movie.
won't talk about Mort Saul. But I thought for some reason I thought Noam might have something to say about it.
No, I've only peripheral exposure to Mort Saul.
Yeah, I mean he was as Gianmarco was saying. How do you pronounce your name?
Gianmarco.
Wrong. It's Gianmarco
Perfect.
Soresi. Your last name is Soresi?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great name. By the way, Gianmarco was thinking about. Didn't somebody tell you should change your name?
My first acting manager was like, we're gonna get you meetings with networks, and they're gonna expect Gianmarco Soresi, and then Gianmarco Soresi's gonna walk in. They wanted me to go something more Jewish.
I definitely think more Jewish is not the way to go. If you want to go with Johnny Soresi, we
Sure.
could talk about it. We could
Sure,
talk about
sure.
Johnny Soresi. I don't think it's ever good in Hollywood to have a Jewish name. I don't think it's ever helpful. May not be necessarily hurtful. I don't think it's ever going to help you unless the particular. And even then, they hired. They had the nerve to hire in the movie White Palace James Spader, the most Gentile-looking man on planet Earth, to play a Jew. And the only person more Gentile-looking than James Spader was the late Rutger Hauer, who also played a Jew in Escape from Sobibor.
That was
We're
that's
at
okay,
a
right?
height of non-Jews playing Jews, and I don't like it.
So I don't think you changing your name to Johnny Shapiro would do you any good. I think now if we want to change your name to Johnny Soresi, we could have a discussion. Quite frankly, I don't think so. I think you should stick with Gianmarco.
Okay,
It's a cool as fuck name.
I appreciate it.
Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't seem to be hindered by his overtly Italian name. Do you find Leonardo because we're so familiar
well,
with
Leonardo was an awesome name,
I still get a lot of
and so is
Giancarlo, though.
Gianmarco's an awesome name.
Yeah. I don't see any problem with this. I think his name is great.
So it's
Get a new acting agent or whatever it was.
yeah, this guy sounds like an
But
imbecile.
this was an old manager, and
Did he have a cigar? Like,
Yeah, was he
listen, kid.
no, it was
You'll,
Gotta change the name.
never work the Catskills with that name.
I was the idea of like they were going to get me a lot of meetings, and then no meetings came, and I was like, oh, good, I didn't change it for the non-existing meeting with ABC.
I wish my name was Gianmarco.
It can be.
Yeah, I guess.
But I mean, it is a credit to America that in just one generation we've gone from Jews changing the name to sound less Jewish to Jews being advised to change their names to sound more Jewish.
Well, but
Nobody saw that coming.
But that piece of advice is wrong.
Yes, but still,
Yeah.
what was Jon Stewart's real
John
name?
Leibowitz.
Leibowitz. Yeah.
What
And-
about Ralph Lauren?
Ralph Lifshitz.
Wow.
But he was. As a clothing designer, nobody would have ever bought a shirt named Ralph Lifshitz.
Do you know all of them? Bob Dylan,
Robert Zimmerman.
Woody Allen.
Alan Konigsberg.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Who else is there? William Shatner.
William Shatner.
William Shatner.
William Shatner is actually from the same hometown as my father, and his cousin Conrad Shatner. Worked for my grandfather in the store.
Jack Benny.
Benjamin Kabelski or something like that.
Is
Something
Howie
like that,
Howie
right?
Mandel's Jewish, right?
Yes, he is.
He had a joke on Carson. He said, "My parents, my last name Mandel, but they changed their name. It used to be much longer. It was Mandel."
That's
And I thought
such a Howie Mandel
it was
joke
so
too.
funny, so funny.
Benjamin Kabelski. I was right. Yeah, Jack Benny.
Dan, that's very impressive.
Kirk Douglas.
Isher Danielovich.
How do you know all this, Dan?
Dan, you're amazing.
That's incredible.
Unlike you, I don't have kids or a business to run.
But I mean,
What Jeopardy category is
You
that?
ran
Jews
the
trying to
Jeopardy
hide it?
category, yeah.
There's a Jeopardy category that's never happened, but if you Jews who've changed their name, I guess I would do well.
That was incredible. That was really
yeah, that was great, Dan.
Tony Bennett. I know that Tony Benedetto. I know the Italians too a little bit, but
Yeah, but they may change the name, but they don't try not to be Italian.
And get nose jobs.
Jack Benny, Kirk Douglas, these people tried to pass.
right, I guess so. Yeah. Tony Curtis is something Schwartz, but I forgot the first name.
So listen, we talk a lot about this back and forth about whether or not the journalist or not have a journalist, and yes, have a journalist, and we've really Dan after a while has sort of convinced you, much to your chagrin. Most
Not convinced me. I just acceded to his demands. You read the tweet?
Wait,
Is that
but
it?
I want to say that twice a month we just have a comic.
Mm-hmm.
Noam really likes to have like very serious intellectual.
And we
on the
did
show.
have
We did
have a serious discussion.
Who, me? Am I the serious intellectual?
What do you think?
Well, I cut Noam off, but we didn't have a serious intellectual, but we did have a discussion that's every bit as. There was nothing lost by not having somebody that wrote an article about Asians not getting into Harvard.
Not today, there wasn't.
I would even add, I think there's something gained, but I would be really curious to see what the listeners think. And we did get a piece of feedback. Can you read that?
Why can't I read? Why can't you read it?
Because you're the host of the show.
Says tweet from E-Town Zag. Is that I-Town Zag? I don't know. Tweeted, the exacerbated Noam and reflectively woke Periel dynamic on the Comedy Cellar podcast is what makes the whole bit work. How do they script such a stereotypically ignorant yet confident character? The writers consistently nail it. I presume they mean you. Stereotypically ignorant yet confident. You should put that in your resume.
I'm going to.
I am
Next
writer
blurb.
for Periel, and I'm so
That
happy
would
to
be
here.
great on your bio.
Like next book you write. Stereotypically ignorant yet confident. Okay.
It's amazing.
He hit the nail on the head, though.
The
Yeah, it was
writers consistently nail it. It's amazing. That made me laugh so hard.
Gianmarco, I guess we'll wrap it up. Gianmarco Soresi has a special out on Amazon Prime, I guess.
Yes.
Now, did you do that yourself, or?
Yeah. You don't have to point it out.
Okay,
But yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's the latest trend. It's
What's
all
wrong with doing it yourself? It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. But sometimes people are like, "Oh, Amazon."
No.
Jeff Bezos commissioned this personally.
No, I don't think you should. I think it's not right. If you did it yourself on YouTube, then you don't have to tell everybody. But if you did it yourself, you just funded yourself, but Amazon agreed to carry it. They decide. That's like saying you wrote that book yourself and Amazon published it.
Yeah, but I don't think the bar to clear is very high.
I don't know.
No, it is. Amazon is yeah.
I don't agree with you. I actually
well, it should
think
make fun
that
of trans.
even on YouTube, people. I don't agree with that.
I don't think anybody cares anymore that it's. I think if millions of people watched Morel and Norman on YouTube, I don't think anybody gives.
At least with Amazon, no one can see the view count. So who knows?
No,
millions,
let me just clarify. I think it's anybody who does a special post on YouTube is terrific, and it's the number of people who watch it tell you everything you need to know about the quality of it. I'm just saying that if he produced his own special, but then it's picked up by a commercial distributor as opposed to YouTube, I do not think it's like self-publishing. It's different.
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah.
800-Pound Gorilla released it as an album, so it's good enough for that.
But self-publishing is Louis does his own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's something to be said for not sitting around and waiting for the corporation.
So they paid.
I'm trying to follow certain parts.
800-Pound Gorilla didn't. They paid for it.
I don't know if they paid. I get a cut. They did publishing and press.
But somebody had to pay for the production. I'm saying.
Yeah. Someone did.
Someone did. Or that was.
Yeah. They have yet to recoup.
It's a Substack world. I mean, this is it. This is
Well,
I'm very proud of it. It's very. I feel
in
very
any
strongly
case,
about it.
what's it called again?
Shelf Life.
Shelf Life. Gianmarco Soresi.
Nominated for an Emmy.
Nominated for the New York Emmys.
The New York Emmys.
Emmy asterisk.
The Uptown Emmys.
And I'm actually so glad that he got to come and meet you guys because.
Oh yeah.
Well, I've known him
Wanted to
for a few weeks anyway.
Special thanks to Yamanika.
Yes.
And to poor Frankie French who broke her tooth. I hope she's okay.
Oh God.
Well, she was supposed to be here. She couldn't make it, so we scrambled, and I said, "Well, who's on the schedule tonight?"
No.
Who's
that's
new,
not-
and we'll say yes immediately.
No, that's not what happened. I sent a few ideas, and he was on the very short list of suggestions.
Do you know when I was in school, grade school, they would give out what are those like little magazine book catalogs where the kids would order books, like
Scholastic.
Scholastic.
That was a long time ago, huh?
Yeah. And
Reading is that's when reading was fundamental.
one of the books you could order was Polish jokes. And I ordered a book of Polish jokes. Yeah, that's it. That was it.
Do you remember any?
I don't remember
Well,
one from
there's
the book. I
I-
remember my Polish joke was, I bought my,
It was probably in the book, though.
was it a Polish joke? No, I don't want
I
don't
know
tell you.
one. How do you?
The punchline was she broke her teeth.
Okay.
Can I say one?
It's a vibrator. Vibrator joke.
How do you know when a Polish woman has her period?
Well, we're not doing
Go ahead. What? How?
How do you know when a Polish woman has her period?
How?
She's only wearing one sock.
All right.
That's good.
Well, let's not delve into Polish jokes.
Make it Hasidic Jews. and then
Um,
okay.
Polish joke. Polish. Please, Poles.
I am
Poles are bullies.
Polish.
We can make fun of the Poles.
I'm Polish.
You're not Polish.
You're not
I am
Polish.
Polish.
Boy.
My grandfather was from fucking Poland.
That doesn't. Oh, Periel, really?
Yeah, really.
So if your grandfather lived in China, you'd be Chinese.
Yes. I
Oh,
would-
really?
Dan's only okay with Puerto Rican. You got to make it.
You are Jewish.
What do you mean? My grandfather was from fucking Poland. That makes me part Polish.
No, it doesn't.
My mother's father was Polish, so that makes
Polish Gentile?
no.
No, that doesn't make you Polish.
What does it make you?
You're Jews.
A
You're
Jew that found a
part-
good-
Je-
that-
Jesus
that's not
Christ, are you an idiot? You think you're Polish?
I think I'm part Polish. No, I'm not a fucking
Don't tell a
idiot.
Pole that.
I'm using genetics.
You are not. You are not part of the Polish nation.
Okay. I don't understand what
The
part
writers
of
are nailing this right now.
No, seriously.
I'm astounded that, especially
No,
for a
it's-
Jew to say such a thing.
Well, it's so shocking, the position that you're taking. It makes no fucking sense. If my grandfather was from China, I would be part Chinese, right?
No, you wouldn't be.
Is nobody going to back me up here? Of course I would be.
How long do you have to live in a foreign country before you become that part of?
He was from there. His parents were from there.
Look,
America is different. If you're an American citizen, you are American. But that's a different thing. When you talk about country nationalities like Polish or German, it may be slowly changing. But I think even in this day, we're still talking about lineage. We're not talking about whether or not somebody from your family geographically spent time there
He didn't spend time there. He was born and grew
or
up
was
there.
born there.
And his parents were
He might have
born
even been
there.
a Polish citizen.
He was a Polish citizen.
Yes, but you are not Polish.
I have European citizenship based on the fucking fact that he was from Poland.
So if you're born in Japan, like if you're pregnant and you dropped a baby in Japan as a tourist, you're going to say your child is now Japanese.
I don't know.
Of course not. You don't know. Have you ever seen anybody that looks like you say they're Chinese?
Nicole, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate?
You know, this tweet understated it.
No, I don't think so. I really don't think
a
so.
lot. I would say a lot of Jews do. I argue with this with Ray Allen about this too. He claims he's part German. I say no, you're not. Nicole, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate today's episode?
It was great. 10.5.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
Why does Ray Allen think he's part German?
Because I guess he had somebody in Germany. His grandfather lived in Germany or something.
Okay, but it's like a cliche story about the Holocaust with Jews say, we're German, we're not Jewish. And the German says, oh, no, you're not. I mean, it's stunning.
Oh, no.
How can any Jew coming from Eastern Europe, given the history of the last 100 years, think that they actually are a member? So you think the Polish people turned on themselves when they killed the Jews?
My entire family was killed in the fucking Holocaust. My grandfather lived in Poland. He escaped Poland. He married my grandmother from Lithuania.
We don't need to hear the whole story.
But yet you think you are the same nationality as these people.
I think my lineage is part Lithuanian and part Polish.
No, that's not your lineage. You're not.
Stereotypically ignorant and confident.
I mean, a nation is a people who share common genetics, common language, common culture, common history. These are the basics. By those things, except that maybe they learn to speak Polish, what else do you have in common with Polish people? Do you eat Polish food? Do you speak Polish in your home? Do you send your kids to a Polish school? Do you
Wait, so if I did all of those things or any of those things, then I would be Polish?
Well, that's what you would likely do if you actually were Polish.
So is
you would do it
Juanita-
naturally
so
because you would be celebrating the things and partaking in your nationality, which is not your nationality.
is
That's why you
Juanita
don't
not-
do any of those things.
Is Juanita not Puerto Rican?
Yes, Juanita's Puerto Rican. As a matter of fact, her 23andMe shows that she's Puerto Rican.
Wait, I'm doing the 23andMe.
Well, it's not going to say Polish.
It's not going to say Polish.
It
It's not
might.
going to say Polish. If it does, it'll be 2%.
If it does say Polish, it means your grandmother was a whore, which would explain a lot. All right. On that note,
On that note,
now that was a good joke.
that was
That
good.
was,
Yeah.
that was a good joke.
We thank Gianmarco Soresi
Yes.
for joining us.
I have a podcast too, just to plug it. The Downside is my podcast.
The Downside,
You like
okay, with
podcasts.
Gianmarco Soresi.
Thank you for having me.
Good night, everybody. Comments to podcast@comedyhorror.com. Good night.
Peace.
Oh, that was hilarious.
I hope it does show Polish.
It might show Polish. I don't understand what you're saying.
Oh,
Why?
Periel.
How is it? I'm serious.
you understand.
Yeah.
I don't know if Gianmarco may agree with Periel for all we know.
You're not Polish.
So what am I?
Jewish.
Okay, but